G'day, I'm Adam David Collings, and I am the author of Jewel of the Stars, a science fiction series of books. And this is my new live show, How I'm Geeking. So this is a bit of an experiment. If it goes well, I may do more of these in the future. The idea is I'm going to share about some of the books I've been reading, some of the shows I've been watching, some of the games I've been playing. It's just a bit of a roundup of all the geeky things that I've been up to, and a chance for me to talk about them without making individual book reviews and that kind of thing. So we'll see how that goes. Now it tells me there is one viewer out there, but that might have been me just testing the stream earlier, so I'm not sure. So if anyone is out there and alive and watching, pop something in the comment so I know you're there. And also let me know if the sound level is okay. I might bump that up a little bit. When I was testing, it did seem it was quite loud. I want to be probably at the top of the green, but not going into the orange. That's my guess. So yes, if you're not familiar with me, I'm Adam David Collings. I write the Jewel of the Stars series. I also have a few short stories out there in my Australian superhero series. I've got a couple of stories about my Tasmanian character Chronostream, who is in the story so far, he's a young boy, but he will eventually grow up to be Chronostream, and he has the ability to reverse time. So he basically has infinite retries to things, but that's not always as a godlike power as he thinks it is, as he finds in one of the stories called A Time to Mourn. I've also got a little bit of fantasy that I'm working on, which is coming up in the future. The first of that will probably be a short story that will be in the Brave New Horizons anthology, which I'm co-editing with a few other authors. But I definitely will be sharing more stories in that world over time as well, so that's pretty cool. So a cool thing that is happening at the moment is, if I go to here, the Draft to Digital Summer Winter Sale. Because of course it's the middle of summer up in the Northern Hemisphere, but it's the depths of winter down here. So I appreciate that they acknowledge that the entire planet is not in the same season. Northern Hemispherians don't always do that. But that's cool. They're pretty cool people anyway. So yes, my books are in this Smashwords sale. Book 1 of Jewel of the Stars is currently free, and that'll be for the whole month of July. Books 2 and 3 are less than $2. And some of my shorter works are in there as well. Some of them are also free. So if you are interested, that's the URL there. I will put that into the chat. And in fact, I can even... Oop, wrong button. No. I can even do that. Although I don't think you're seeing the entire thing there, are you? Because that's one string. That doesn't really work. And you can also go here. This is the homepage for the entire sale, so you can find all the books that are on sale here. So I'll whack that in as well. Alright. So it says I have 2 concurrent viewers, so there is some sentient life form out there other than me who is watching. And I no longer have my test up, so I'm guessing that is actually 2 people who are not me. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, so I'm going to be going over what I've been reading, what I've been watching, what I've been playing. So we might as well get into it, but feel free to say hello in the chat. Let me know where you're from, all that kind of stuff. I'm coming to you from Tasmania, which is a state of Australia, and it's an island right at the bottom. So, Children of Time. This is a book that I have read quite recently. So, this is one of those ones that gets talked about a lot on the internet. Um, it's kind of one of those modern, I don't know if you call it a modern classic, but it's definitely a modern popular sci-fi book, and with good reason. So I had been looking for this for a while because I've been seeing a lot of people talking about it, and I read a lot of indie books. I love supporting my fellow indie authors, and they write some awesome stuff. But I was wanting to check out a bit more of the mainstream, traditionally published sci-fi that everyone's talking about lately. And so this was part of that. And so I'd been looking for this. Whenever I go to a bookshop, I'd always scour the shelves to see if this was there. And most of the time it wasn't. Um, I love bookshops. I love going to them. But one of the hard things is that you can never seem to find anything you're looking for in them because there's limited shelf space. They can't stock every book that exists. And they never seem to stock the books that I'm looking for. Um, but one, I did actually locate it at our library, so I was going to get it from the library, and then there it was in front of me in a bookshop in Hobart. So I grabbed it. And so I really enjoyed this. It's the idea is that on a planet, a scientist is uplifting. Well, she plans to uplift a group of monkeys, to make them sentient, to basically create what is ultimately going to be a servant race for humanity, because Earth is undergoing various problems and difficulties, and the future's not looking great for Earth and potentially the human race. So that's her plan, but through some opposition and some terrorist activity, it turns out that this nanovirus that she's designed to uplift the monkeys actually uplifts the spiders instead. So this book spends a lot of time developing this culture of these sentient spiders, and you see them grow from these really primitive, I can't really say people, but these primitive spiders um, to being an advanced civilization, and I just found that so fascinating. That really was my favourite part of the book, was the spider point of view. That's a sentence I never thought I'd say. But it was really cool. The other side of it is we follow some human characters on a spaceship who have left the dying Earth. There's nothing left for them to go back to. So they're looking for a new home in space. And they find this planet. And it's habitable. And, that means it's ideal because they can actually live there. But there are defensive systems to protect the experiment, and the AI of this scientist that she left behind does not want humans interfering with her experiment. At this time, she doesn't realize that it's actually spiders and not monkeys that she's uplifted. Yeah, I mean, my favorite stuff was definitely the spiders. Found it a little hard to follow the human story sometimes. At times, it seemed like they kept going in and out of cryogenic stasis for seemingly no reason at times. But I think that was possibly just because I wasn't paying enough attention. I was wanting to get back to the spiders. I don't really like spiders in real life. They're kind of terrifying, but I don't know. Maybe I've developed a new appreciation for them in this book. I'd still be terrified if I came face to face with these, because they're big. They're not the size of an average Earth spider. They're closer to the Lord of the Rings spiders. So yeah, it was a really good book. I really enjoyed it. There are, the conflict that was building between the humans and the spiders. One of the things I think this book did so well was it made you sympathetic to both sides. So you're seeing basically a war, but you like both sides in this war, and you don't want to see either of them destroyed. And that was a great experience that the author was able to create. And I'm reading this, getting to the end, I'm thinking, how can the author resolve this? Well, he did, and it was very satisfying. It was very good. It was very moving, and I loved the ending. And it's a complete standalone story. You can read it and move on, but the ending does kind of set up the possibility for sequels, and I think there's some pretty cool possibilities there. So I am looking forward to continuing this series at some point in the future. All right. So let's talk about Pilgrims by M.R. Leonard. So I listened to this one in audio. So I heard about this on Goodreads, I believe. So this is an interesting story. So the premise here is that aliens arrive on Earth and they go straight to Rome and declare that they are actually Catholic, which is a big shake-up to the world, to theological beliefs. The fact that these aliens, not even from Earth, are following Christianity is really, it really shakes up the world. And yeah, so this was a really fun book. It dealt with some interesting theological stuff. It doesn't shy away from some negative things and some hard lessons, um, which I think it did really well. But again, it had a very moving ending, and as someone who is of a Christian faith myself, I found the ending very satisfying and very enjoyable. I think it's the kind of book that would appeal to a fairly wide audience of different beliefs. Um, it's hard for me to put myself out of my own mindsets to be certain of that, but very, very well written, very unique and interesting science fiction. So I really enjoyed that one as well. It's been a great year of reading for me. It really has. Um, I pre-planned my writing this year. Sorry, my reading, not my writing. I'm pre-planning my writing as well. But yeah, I actually made a list of books that I want to read, and I ordered them. And I'm adding things to it as time goes on, absolutely. But it's been really fun to plan out what am I going to read next. So, but yeah, it's been a great year. So another one that I read recently is Out of the Silent Planet by C.S. Lewis. Now, this is the first book in his space trilogy. Everyone knows Narnia, everyone talks about Narnia, but people don't talk about the space trilogy as much. I'd been aware of it for a very long time, and I was keen to read it, but I just never had. And this is another one that I had a lot of trouble finding. I was looking for a paper copy, more than anything, because it just was one of the things I would look for whenever I was in a bookshop. Was never able to find a copy, not in bookshops, not in second-hand shops. I did look it in the library, I thought, but then when I went back to place a hold on it, it wasn't there, so I wasn't sure. But I did eventually find on Amazon for the Kindle a very cheap copy of the entire trilogy in one volume, so that was really cool. I love my Kindle. So I was able to start reading that. Now, this was an interesting one. In a lot of ways, it feels like setup for the rest of the series. And I have actually heard that, you need to view Out of the Silent Planet as essentially almost a prequel to Palalandria. That's not right. I had this trouble the other day. I'm missing a syllable in there somewhere. Um, let's just have a look here. I was going to find the trilogy. Because this has been driving me crazy. I'm trying to think of the name of the second book, and I'm missing a syllable. Paralandra. Kept wanting to say Palalalandra. Yeah, Paralandra. Okay. Yeah, so I've heard it said that you should really view this as a basically a prequel to Paralandra. And that kind of seems true. It's a lot of setup. It's establishing the world. But there was still a lot of fun to be had here. To think how early this was written. This was published in 1938. If you'll excuse me, sorry, I have a delivery. I'll be back in just one moment. Sorry. Someone came to the door with a delivery, which I had to go collect. Don't get a lot of deliveries on Saturday mornings, but I'm finding a lot of deliveries are being done by courier companies and a lot less by Australia Post these days. And sometimes these private companies will deliver on a Saturday. So good on them. Alright, so we are talking about Out of the Silent Planet. Yeah, so there's some cool space exploration stuff here. There's a lot of, meeting aliens that are quite unique and different to us. Exploring the landscape of the planet, getting to know more about the aliens, their biology, their culture. All this is great stuff, and this book does that pretty darn well. And yeah, I was talking about how this was published in 1938. You know, that was probably about as close to the Wright brothers as it was to the moon landing. I mean, this is long before humans had set foot on the moon, or even humans had not gone into space yet when this was written. And you can tell because there's some science that just does not work today, which you just need to accept when you're reading a book that was published that long ago. So that no issue with that, but it was kind of amusing to see some of those things. But yeah, given how long ago it was written, just the imagination that he had, that it didn't feel that far removed from the science fiction that I've enjoyed in my life. So during my lifetime. So yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I thought it was good, but it was in some ways it was less than I was expecting. I'd heard all this talk about the interesting theological ideas that this book brings up, and how the people of Malacandra, they never experienced the fall, so they're kind of these sinless creatures, and Earth is this kind of quarantined planet because we fell from grace, kind of thing. Um, I was expecting the book to explore that, and I was waiting, and I even got to the scene where, well, this is where it's going to happen. This is where that discussion is going to take place, and it kind of didn't. In fact, there was a moment where the alien says, right, to the protagonist, you and I, we're going to have a deep conversation now, and then the book says, but I'm not going to tell you anything about that, and kind of cuts to the end of the discussion. And I'm like, what? What author does that in a book? That was weird. I'm not sure what you were up to with that, C.S. Lewis. Um, so yeah, I am assuming that those kind of discussions and exploration of those ideas happens more in Paralandra and that hideous strength. Uh, so I'm looking forward to finding out. I've got the entire trilogy on my Kindle. I will be definitely reading the others. I haven't scheduled them into my list yet. It may be later this year. It may not, but I'm definitely going to read them. And so yeah, it's hard to have too much of an opinion on this book because I feel like I've read chapter one of a story, or maybe act one is a better way of saying it. I feel like I've experienced the first act of a story. So we will see where that leads. But I did enjoy Out of the Silent Planet. Ah yes, Doomsday Horizon. So the Starman series. Um, this is a series that I've been really enjoying over the last couple of years. They were originally published back in the kind of mid 2000s, I think it was. Um, these science fiction books were written in the style of the sci-fi of the 1960s, and they built up quite a big following. They had quite a fan community around them, and then they kind of went out of print and they couldn't be found anymore. Now, a mate of mine, Winston, he discovered these books and read them and loved them, and he wanted to share them with the world. He wanted to tell other people to read them, but they just weren't available. So he actually approached the authors. There are three people who make up Michael D. Cooper, which is a pen name, and through a bit of discussion and negotiation, he secured the rights to republish these books, which he's been doing faithfully over the last couple of years. And I've been reading them as they come out and enjoying them. For me, it was book two, The Runaway Asteroid, that really sold me on this series. I enjoyed book one. Book 1 made me feel like, okay, I want to see where this series is going. Book 2 made me feel like, okay, I'm in. I'm reading this whole thing as Winston puts them out. So yeah, so this is now what is this? Um, I think it's book 8. Yeah, this is book 8 in the series. This series, it builds up some long running plot arcs as it goes, and it takes its time with it. It starts to build mystery, and that mystery is very intriguing. And then we learn more about the mystery. We learn more about who's behind it. We learn the secret history of the solar system. And by the time we've learnt pretty much all of that, the mystery is gone, but it's been replaced with the tension of, well, now we know that things are really bad, and we've got to prepare for this. In a lot of ways, it kind of reminds me of the arc of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, where they very, very slowly introduced the Dominion. And at first it was this mysterious name that was heard in whispers, and then it was this ominous thing that we were fearful of, and then it was a genuine threat, but it was kind of distant. We weren't sure how bad it was going to be, and then eventually it led to All Out War that took 2 seasons of the show. Um, this feels like that, and yeah, I'm kind of at that point now in the story where things are really really heating up, and so yeah, that's been very exciting in this book. Um, it starts off with a little bit of a twist and a I won't spoil it, but there's something that you think's happening, and then something takes a different turn than where it looks like it's going. And I was kind of suspecting that might end up being the case. Um, Part of me wanted it to go the other way, but I think if it had gone that way, it would have been a very different story than what it is. I'm not sure it would have been, may not have been right for the Starman saga. So the way it went was probably the best way. Um, I'm talking very vaguely here. Um, but yeah, it's been a real big thrill ride. This book, Doomsday Horizon. I am nearly finished. I'm on like 98% or something, I think. So I passed the climax. I'm kind of into the denouement of the story now. Um, I do have book 9 also on my Kindle ready to go, and book 10 I think is coming out in a couple of months. So book 10 is going to be the big climax of this arc, but there is some more after that as well. So that's going to be sad when the whole thing's finished, because I won't have any more to look forward to. I'll be one of the people who's read the series. I think I can already say that I am one of the Starman fans, but I'm the new generation of fans as opposed to the old people. Not to say that I'm not an old person, but I'm not. I'm middle aged. Middle aged is not old. Um, so yes, I would definitely recommend checking out the Starman Saga by Michael D. Cooper. You can find it everywhere. They're on Amazon, Kobo, all the places. Drive Through Fiction is another place where I know Winston really loves to sell them, which is a lesser known retailer. But yeah, Winston kind of has the same approach that I do. Get the book everywhere so that you know reach different audiences all over the place. Whoever wants to read it can read it and get it where they want, which I think is really cool. It's also available in hardback, so if you want to read those in paper, you can do that as well. All right. So this is one that I haven't read yet. So now we're getting into books that I'm planning to read in the future. So this is Red Rising by Pierce Brown. This is another one that is being talked about a lot on the internet. Um, from what I gather, it is basically the Hunger Games on Mars in the future, which by itself sounds like a pretty cool premise to begin with. So there's a very much a class kind of hierarchy in this world where people have different colors, and I believe red is kind of the lowest of the low. And this guy is wanting to work his way up to the top, and so he kind of, I don't think he's even meant to be in these games, but I think he bluffs his way in. Anyway, it sounds like a fun ride. This again is a series. I think it's a trilogy. So I've got it sitting just over there on my bookshelf. Oh, excuse me. Water burps. Does anyone else find that water makes them burp? That's kind of illogical because there's no gas in it. I think the problem, actually, for me is because I suffer from so much hay fever, my nose is always blocked, and so I'm often kind of swallowing air into my stomach because it's really hard to breathe and drink or breathe and eat at the same time. So then I get all this air in my belly and it gives me hiccups and burps and stuff. Probably more you wanted to know, more than what you wanted to know about my biology. But yeah, I am looking forward to reading Red Rising. It will be, it's probably going to be the next one that I read. So I will probably start reading it later today because I am so close to finishing this. Almost finished it last night, but I kind of needed to I needed to sleep because I was falling asleep in it and I had to stop. Because I was at the climax, and you don't want to sleep through the climax because we don't want to sleep through any part of a book, but it was too exciting not to give it, the attention it deserved. Otherwise, I probably would have just finished it. You hear people saying, I stayed up till 3 a.m. to finish a book. I can't do that anymore, not at this age. So another one that I'm looking forward to reading in the near future is Isles of the Emberdark by Brandon Sanderson. This is another one of his secret novels that he wrote without telling us and then suddenly sprang it on us. This was for his crowdfunding campaign for the leather-bound editions of Words of Radiance. So he always has some kind of a new ebook as one of the lower tiers of these things because he knows that not everyone wants to or can afford to buy these big expensive special leather bounds, as awesome as they look. But he always puts a little something in there for the rest of us. So it was about $10 and you can get this ebook of a brand new story, and you can feel a part of the whole thing and you can lend your support to it. So that's really cool. This is based on a short story that he wrote a number of years ago called Sixth of the Dusk. And I really liked that story. It was a lot of fun, had a very unique idea, and I actually kind of saw a bit of the behind-the-scenes making of it because it was part of this anthology they did with the Writing Excuses podcast that he was a part of at the time. And so they all brainstormed an idea for a story together on the podcast, and then they wrote them and published them. And that was Brandon's story. It had a pretty cool magic system, as they usually do. But he's basically taken that and extended it into a novel. So this is set deep in the future of his Cosmere kind of shared universe. So it's fantasy, but it also has interstellar spaceships. So that sounds really, really cool. Not yet sure exactly where I'm going to slot that into the order. Usually when one of these Brandon Sanderson secret projects arrives, I'll just jump into it straight away. But I have so much good stuff on my list at the moment. and I want to get back to book 9 of this fairly soon as well. So I haven't decided the exact order yet, but I'll figure that out. But yeah, this one is probably going to be next. Well, that pretty much covers books for the moment, I think. Other than a reminder of my own books, Jewel of the Stars, which you can find at books2read.com/jewel. So I might move on to games. So last weekend I started playing a game that we had in the house, which I'd never played. It's actually my son's. He bought it at some point. I think he got it secondhand at EB Games. And I'd always been interested in this game. I'd heard about it. I thought that looks pretty cool. At the time, we didn't have a PS4. We only had the PS3. But my son bought it. I thought, oh, okay, yeah. So I did actually give it a go last weekend. And that is Death Stranding. So this stars Norman Reedus of Walking Dead fame. And, voice obviously, but I'm pretty certain there's a lot of performance capture going on here. So this really is an acting role for him, just like a movie or a TV show. it's so cool how gaming has gone, and there's all this acting in games now that I really enjoy. I am very much a story guy when it comes to games. Um, to me, games are stories. They are interactive stories. So it's like a movie, except I get to play a role in that movie, and that is the experience that I'm going to a game for. That is what gives me the enjoyment. So it's yeah, being able to interact with the story and be a part of that world. For that reason, I wouldn't say I am skilled at games. I'm not very good at the whole hand-eye coordination and all that business. That's not me. I usually set the difficulty fairly low, and I am not looking for a challenging experience. Some people view games almost like sport. Um, you know, they're wanting to win it. They're wanting to compete, and you have all these multiplayer games these days. They view it as a challenge to be defeated. That's not how I view games, not remotely. Um, so this kind of game is really up my alley because this is very much a story-driven game, and I would define story as the combination of plot, character, and setting. So there's lots of cutscenes in this. I've always been cool with cutscenes. I like a good meaty cutscene. I don't mind sitting and watching the story unfold for a while before I get to take control again. But this is very heavy in that, so if you don't like sitting around for 5, 10, maybe even 15 minutes watching stuff, it may not be the game for you, but I enjoy that. Now, having looked at, in like trailers and videos and stuff of what the gameplay of the game was, it didn't look like it was hugely engaging gameplay. Like you walk around places and you deliver stuff. Um, that probably wouldn't be enough for a lot of people, but it works for me. It really does. I really enjoy walking around this unique landscape, exploring. Finding out what's going to be around the next corner. And there is a bit of challenge to it. You got to find the right path. You got to balance your character as he's walking because he's carrying these big, huge, heavy things on his back. So it's very easy to fall over. But then, and this is the element I didn't realize was part of the game, that there's these monsters, and they're largely invisible, and there's some real kind of creepy tension when they show up. So I wasn't expecting that, but I've been enjoying that as well. It almost starts to feel a little bit like horror when it gets to that. Not gory or any of that kind of horror. Um, just kind of just a real kind of creepy atmosphere. So yeah, I am not very far into the game. I've played the first episode. I have no idea how many episodes there are. Quite a few, I would imagine. But yeah, I'm loving the world. I'm enjoying seeing the journey of this character. I think I'm going to come to really like Norman Reedus' character over time. And yeah, so I'm having a lot of fun with that, and I'm looking forward to continue playing that. The difficulty is, because it has these really long cutscenes, the only thing you can do during a cutscene is pause, which is awesome. Thank you so much, developers, for allowing us to pause cutscenes. Um, I'm really happy about that. But you can only pause or skip or continue. And so if you're going to be playing this game, you have to be in a situation where you know that you can afford to sit there through like a 15-minute cutscene before the game lets you save and exit. And that's a real problem. Because life happens, families happen, unexpected things happen. I might have to get up and start cooking tea. I might have to go out somewhere. So I think I'm going to have to just get really good at predicting when the interactive part is about to finish and then extended cutscenes are about to start, making sure I save beforehand. So if something happens during one of these cutscenes and I do have to stop, I can just exit, knowing that, sure, I'll have to re-watch some of this later, but at least I know my progress is saved. So that's the challenge that comes with that. The other thing that I have been playing a bit lately, um, which is the complete opposite end of the gaming spectrum, is Stardew Valley. You may have heard of that. It's a fairly well-known game. It's it's a strange beast, but it has this really unique, really specific kind of appeal that I think reaches out to a lot of people. So it's in a lot of ways it feels like an RPG, but it's not. It's not about fighting monsters, although there is a brief part where you actually do fight monsters. But it's not about combat. It's not about adventuring. It's about building an ordinary life. And I think there's this thing that appeals to the fantasy in a lot of people of getting away from everything. It's that escape mentality that life is hard, and wouldn't it be cool if we could just go and live off somewhere and just live on a farm and grow crops, and wouldn't that be cool? And the game even starts with, your character in an office, it's like, almost physically chained to your computer, being beaten down to death by the drudgery of modern life. It's like, I want to get away from it all. In Australia, we call this a sea change. I don't know if that's a term unique to us or if that's global. But yeah, the idea is just get away from your whole life, move to a small town by the beach, and start a completely new life. And there's something in all of us, I think, that fantasizes about that sometimes. Now, the interesting thing about fantasizing is that sometimes in life we fantasize about something that we wouldn't actually want for real. Think about Lord of the Rings. Who wouldn't want to go with Frodo on that adventure, travel with him through Middle Earth? I think we all fantasize about being part of the Fellowship of the Ring. But would we really want to live through that? I mean, the hardships that they went through. I mean, look how broken Frodo is at the end of that trilogy. We would not actually want to live through that, but we fantasize about living through that. Um, it's an experience we want to imagine that we're in, but we probably don't want to be in it. And I think Stardew Valley appeals to that same kind of thing. Um, I imagine if you ask any farmer, he'll say this is no walk in the park. This is a really hard life. It's really hard work. Probably a lot harder than I would even imagine. It is no sea change, and I'm sure they love their work and find it satisfying, though, as I do. I I enjoy my job as a computer programmer. I find a lot of satisfaction on it, but I still have that fantasy of getting away from it all. So I think Stardew Valley as a game appeals to that. I think that's why it is enjoyable. So that covers what I've been playing in terms of video games. So let's talk a little bit about what I've been watching. Now, first of all, I have been watching Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home, and I'm watching this for my Nerd Heaven podcast, which I release as I'm able. I don't have a specific schedule for that anymore because I found that the podcast, which I originally created as kind of a way of subtly marketing my writing, it was taking over from the writing. So I was spending all my time on the podcast and I wasn't writing books anymore. So I actually put it on hold for about a year, but I missed it and I wanted to come back to it. So I've kind of found that balance now where I still do the Nerd Heaven podcast. I put it out when I am able, um, but it doesn't completely take over from the writing. So I've been going through the original series Star Trek movies. I've done the first three so far, and I am currently watching Star Trek 4. It takes a while because I put the movie on and I'm there and I'll keep. I essentially write the script of the podcast while I'm watching the movie. So like a 1.5 hour movie might take me like 5 hours to watch because I keep pausing and then not just taking notes but literally writing out what I'm going to say about this thing. So it is a fairly time consuming process, but it's one that I enjoy, and Star Trek 4 is a pretty cool movie that I think people universally seem to like. So I'm looking forward to getting that out fairly soon. I'm not sure exactly when that will be, but it'll be when I'm done. And I've had some thoughts. I've been watching some videos about, you know, bringing a podcast into YouTube, because I actually get more views on YouTube than I do listens on the audio version on the podcast. So I'm changing a little bit of the way I do the beginning, um, just to try and keep a few more viewers, because there's such a steep drop off at the beginning, which you find with all YouTube videos. But yeah, I want to try and retain my viewers a bit longer. Um, I want to make the promise as early as possible of what this video is going to be. So that's what that'll be. The other big thing I've been watching is a show called Brea. Now, this aired on Australian free-to-air TV a couple of years ago. I don't really watch free-to-air TV, but I did see that it popped up on the streaming app of our local TV station. They put things up there that you can kind of watch that have been broadcast recently. You got a few months that you can kind of catch up and watch them on demand. So I was watching this show on that app with ads, and I was quite enjoying it. And after a while, I just kind of stopped and forgot all about it. And then, quite recently, probably late last year, I guess, it showed up on Netflix. It was only the first season, so I got back into it, and I finished watching the first season, and it ended with a bit of a bang, and it was pretty cool. And I was keen for season 2, but Netflix did not have season 2. I went back to the app of our local TV station. Well, they had season 3, which was no good to me because I can't watch season 3 without season 2. So I just had to wait, and sure enough, Netflix did eventually bring season 2 out, so that is now on the platform. So I've started watching the second season, so that's cool. I'm probably going to have to wait a bit when I'm done until they bring out season 3, because that won't be on the other app anymore. So if you're not familiar with this, very briefly, the premise is that a sinkhole opens up in Los Angeles, and a bunch of people get sucked down through a time portal and end up in 10,000 BC. So they're having to survive, build a life for themselves down there. And this is another one of those fantasy things where, we fantasize about, space colonization stories, I think, fit this as well, but being cut off from the whole rest of the world, and you've just got to start from scratch and rebuild civilization. There's something appealing to that we would absolutely not want to have to be in that situation in real life. But yeah, it's pretty cool. It almost feels like a blend of Lost and Terra Nova. I really loved Terra Nova. I was so sad that it didn't get a second season. And that was shot here in Australia. I also liked Lost. It's kind of popular these days to bag out Lost, but I enjoyed the show. I really, really liked it. I think there's some things that could have been done better if they probably actually planned out ahead. But in terms of mysteries, I think they did a better job of paying mysteries off than a lot of people give them credit for. But yeah, La Brea, I think they're doing a better job of planning these things out, planning some foreshadowing earlier on, and paying off these things later. I don't know what their process is in the writer's room. I don't know how much they are planning ahead, or were. I don't think the show's running anymore. But they're at least giving the impression that they know where they're going with this. So that is pretty cool. In terms of characters, the show centers around a family, which is always a big win for me. I love stories about families. So the mum and the son are trapped in 10,000 BC, and the dad and the daughter are in the present, trying to find a way to rescue the people that are trapped in the past. And there's some really interesting mysteries that they're building up about the father character, and there's some big, really interesting reveals at the end of the first season about him. So I am really enjoying this show, and yeah, I'm pretty sure that it's no longer running. I don't know if it was cancelled or if it came to a natural finishing point. I'll find out when I get to season 3. Wish me luck. I don't know that I even want to find out ahead of time either. Although, sometimes getting to the end of a show and then looking up, alright, when's the next season coming? Oh, it's cancelled. Sometimes that can be harder. Sometimes it might be easier on you knowing ahead of time. I've had that experience with a couple of shows. I forget the name of it, but there was a show I was watching where there was a asteroid coming to Earth, and right at the end of the second season, things got really interesting because suddenly they realised the asteroid is slowing, and I'm like, there's always been a bit of sci-fi to this, but now they're setting up. This is going real sci-fi, and I am ready for it. And so I went to Google straight away, found out when next season was coming, and read that it had been cancelled a year ago in America. So that was sad. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll do some research when I get to season 3 just to find out how it ended, whether it was cancelled or not. Or maybe I won't. We'll find out. So that basically covers the things that I wanted to talk about today in the show. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope it's been interesting to hear about some of the things that I've been enjoying. And I hope maybe you found the next book that you want to read, or the next game you want to play, or movie you want to watch. So a reminder that the Smashwords Summer Winter Sale is happening. It runs for the entire month. You're going to find a huge amount of bargains on Smashwords. All different genres, different levels. Some books are 25% off, some 50% off, 75%. Some of them are free. You'll find a lot of free books on Smashwords right now, and it's really easy to get those books onto whatever device you're wanting to read them on. Side loading is I don't think it was ever difficult, but it's a lot easier nowadays than it used to be. My books are in this sale. There's the Jewel of the Stars series. I put links to my series and the overall sale in the chat of this. I'll also add them to the comments of this video after it's finished. So you can get book 1, which is free. Books 2 and 3 are less than $2. So never been a better time to pick up Jewel of the Stars. And I think that pretty much covers everything I want to say. So I'll probably wrap this show up at this point. Let's quickly see if there's any comments before I go. No, nothing in there. Cool. I may do more shows like this in the future. If you're watching this on replay and it looks good, feel free to let me know that you're interested. But we'll see what happens. In the meantime, live long and prosper. Make it so. Okay, I am sorry. I have just noticed there was chat happening all over the place, but my chat window pop-up was not showing it. But when I went into the YouTube studio, I saw there was a lot to chat. Winston is there. Powell Family Farm is there. I'm really sorry, guys. If you are still watching, let me just really quickly have a look at some of this chat. So we've got Critical Press Media, which is my mate Winston, who I talked about earlier, who's publishing the Starman books. He says he's heard of some of those books. Greeting from sunny southern Indiana. And then Power Family Farm. So I should be able to highlight these. I'm really frustrated. See, I can see my own chats, and I can highlight them like this. See how cool that is? I spent a lot of time getting this working yesterday, but I can't see any of the real chats in there, so I can't highlight them. Sorry. But yeah, Power Family Farm. Hi Adam, Idaho, USA here, taking a short break from Independence Day festivities. And yeah, when I scheduled this for today, I kind of didn't realize. Oh yeah, that's 4th of July in America, so I probably won't be getting many American viewers. Um, but yeah, you guys have both shown up, so I appreciate that. And I hope you enjoyed your special day very much. Um, Uplift. I haven't thought about those books in a moment. David Brin is demonstrating. Yeah, so the term I talked about uplifting the spiders to sentience. That is a that term uplift has come from a series of books called Uplift, which was not the books I was talking about, but yeah, I have definitely heard about them. Winston's got a list of books he wants to read, but he doesn't stick to it. Fair enough. There's no rules with reading. Read what you want and read how you want. Lewis Spake's books are next level. Yeah, really looking forward to getting into more of those. Pal Family, never heard of these. Oh, yes. So, Winston got excited. Starman! When I started talking about the series. So, yeah, he said book 2 is definitely the strongest introduction. And that's what I found with that. Yeah. Nothing against book 1, but book 2 was what really grabbed me. Hunger Games in Space, I'm in. Yep, well, that was kind of what I thought too, Winston. Oh, yes, Winston saying, no, write more books. Yeah, I am, trust me. I am not going to let the podcast or my travel vlog or anything else take over from the writing. The hard thing the last 2 years is that I've been co-editing this anthology, so when I'm writing, I'm working on that. I'm giving feedback to other writers on their stories and working on my own story as well. But it has kept me from Jewel of the Stars, which is really unfortunate, and I am really keen to get back into that and publish the next book as soon as humanly possible. Pal Family Farm says, more books and more nerd heaven. Can I just say how encouraging it is when people say stuff like that from you guys? I don't make a lot of sales on my books. I don't get a lot of listens on my podcast. But knowing that there is even a handful of people out there who genuinely really enjoy what I'm doing, it is really encouraging to me, and it makes it worthwhile. If I have 2 fans, I will keep making this stuff for those 2 people, and I will do it for the rest of my life. That is just so cool. So, yeah, thank you to both of you. Love the podcast too. Maybe clone yourself, Winston says. Yeah, but then which of those would I be? And, yeah, that would... Man, there's some deep existential things to think about with that one. So Power Family Farm says, I've been watching all the TOS movies again. The Undiscovered Country is next. It is my favourite one. The Undiscovered Country is awesome. There's a little bit of weirdness to it in a few places, which I'll talk about when I get to that. But yeah, it's a great movie, and I'll have lots of great stuff to say about Star Trek 6 when I get there. Star Trek 5 is going to be an interesting one to talk about. Largely viewed by the fan base as the worst and terrible and horrible. And it is definitely a highly flawed movie with a lot of problems. But I will also have some positive things to say about it as well. You guys know me, I always look for the best, and yeah, so that'll be an interesting discussion. Winston also loved Terra Nova, so that's cool. Maybe I'll have to do a Nerd Heaven series on Terra Nova. Another thing I'd like to do is the Netflix Lost in Space, because that was another show along those similar lines that I really liked. Anyway, that brings me to the end of the chat. I'm really sorry I missed all those chats, and I'll know for next time. I've learnt. Don't rely on that pop-up thing, because actually I think what I need to do, I should have, because I popped this out last night, but I've stopped and restarted since then. I should have popped out there it goes. Okay, so I can Okay, so I'm sharing. Yeah, I set it all up last night, but I needed to reset it up today. Well, that's a huge lesson learned. If I do this again, I will make sure I don't miss the chat messages. Alright, I'm going to go for real this time. So, live long and prosper. Have a great day or night, wherever you are on this planet. Bye.